It starts recording.
Zoom class to create that beautiful cherry blossom that we all saw on our social media, and you see there behind her. She will go ahead and take over from here.
Yes, I am going to take over from here. I am so excited you all are with me today. I'm coming into the scene here. I got my brushes. You guys look awesome. I happen to have done, what do I want to say? I've done an Asian theme with you last week, so this is kind of fun to be doing the same thing. And I thought we would do it in acrylic paint this time. We were working in a little bit of watercolor before, you all did a great job. We did a landscape with the trees. So this time we're going to work in acrylic and we're going to do perspective. We didn't do perspective before. And it may seem daunting. It might seem like, oh no, I can't do this, but you really will be able to do it. You will do just fine. And I'm going to walk you through it step by step. And let's make sure we have everything. So make sure you've got a pencil handy. I'm going to draw, or at least put my perspective point with a charcoal pencil so it shows up for you. You could just draw with your paintbrush too, so you don't have to feel like that you have to run and go get a pencil. And I have two types of brushes with me today. I have a bristle brush that will hold paint. It'll be great for putting that beautiful blue sky in and our green grass. And then I have a sable brush, which feels like a horsehair or makeup brush. It's really soft. It won't hold as much paint, but it is very useful when drawing with your brush. And then I have a couple of smaller ones just in case I need that for something like detail and my name at the end. So you can go find something small like that. It doesn't have to be, it could be like in your kid's watercolor pan. So something a little small. We're going to have fun because we're going to be looking at the Impressionist painter Van Gogh today. And Vincent van Gogh used a lot of texture in his work. He was inspired a lot with some of the Asian landscape, and I'm not sure that he actually visited there, but I know his uncle did a lot of traveling. And it was interesting that the cherry trees have been around for quite some time and celebrated for quite some time. So I'll talk about that as we go along. I chose the cherry tree idea today because I used to live in Washington, D.C., and for 15 years, and they would bloom almost like clockwork, and you knew that spring was in the air, and everybody would come out and picnic and walk along the Washington Mall. There are these trees everywhere, all over the United States, and so I'll talk about that too in a little while. Okay, paint. We gotta have some paint too ready, because we're still letting a few people in, so that's good that we're kind of going over what you need. I went ahead and put red and white on this foam plate. I like to use foam, not paper plate, because the paper plate will break down once it gets a little wet. And obviously I'm going to be starting with that white and blue to make my sky. This, the red and white, will make all those beautiful cherry blossoms. And later on I'm going to have some yellow, believe it or not, because even though you don't think you see yellow in there, there's yellow in there. I'm going to be mixing that with my blue to make a pretty green. So this is all you need. And you're thinking, well, where's brown? Well, we can make brown with what we have here. So if you have brown and green, by all means you can get it out. You don't have to try to do a lot of color mixing tonight. I know our time is limited. I've heard that some people have been continuing afterwards, after the session is over. That's great. You can keep going later after we're done, and you can watch it on YouTube the next day. So if you miss any parts of it, you can see me in a recording, and that way you can catch up where you might have left off. Okay, so let's get started. I got my charcoal pencil just so you can see it. I'm actually going to put a dot right here in the center of my canvas. And it's not even in the center. If this is the center, I went about 2/3 of the way down, and I put a dot. This is going to be called a 1-point perspective, meaning everything is going to come from that point. Now here's where you get to make a decision. You can decide to do this, and your pathway is just a triangle, and you're walking up the pathway, and your trees are like this along the sidewalk or the pathway. Or you could have your road do something like this, like I did in this one over here. So my road actually is curved, and I'm just approaching it on the curve.
I'm sorry, baby. I'm very upset now.
So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to do the curved one like you see. And I'm going to get rid of my other lines. You can get rid of charcoal. You can't really get rid of your graphite so easily. But you decide, are you going to have a triangle road, or are you going to have a curved road? Okay. Now you're going to be able to see it even better, because I'm just going to go ahead and take a little bit of blue so you can see that's my road. Or my path, whatever you want it to be. Okay, my horizon line is also going to be on the dot. So this is my horizon line. You're probably drawing in pencil at this point. Okay. Now what I have to do is figure out where I want all my trees. So I'm going to be painting the sky, of course, first, and then I'm going to figure out where those trees are going to go. And I want to be thinking about the trees because I don't want to have to fill in so much blue back there if I really got this big, blooming, beautiful tree in the front, so I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time putting a lot of blue back there. You'll notice too in my sky that I go from a little bit darker blue mixed with my white, and it gets really light down here at the horizon line. The horizon line is where the ground meets the sky. So we're going to start with kind of a deeper blue. It's actually not even that dark. You'd be surprised how much little blue I use when I make sky. Alright, so let's do that. I'm going to use my hog's hair bristle brush, the really rough one, and I'm going to mix it with just a tad of blue, mostly white. And you can see I'm mixing right up. And it's kind of like a baby powder blue, so I'm going to use more white because I really want it to be more light blue. I can always go darker later if I want to. Okay, so I'm going to just start layering that beautiful sky in there. And I know there's going to be a big tree here, so I don't have to put a whole lot of paint in there, but I can dry brush. That just means I don't have a lot of paint on the brush. So I kind of know there's going to be a big tree right here. If you don't know yet where your trees are going to go, you could go ahead and put blue over the whole thing. I'm working on a 16 by 20 canvas just so it's big enough for you guys to see. In your description, you would have seen that I had 8 by 10 or larger, right? So you should actually be able to finish this painting in this setting. Whereas I have to go really quickly on something this large. If you put too much blue in it, just squirt some more white out. And go ahead and just paint that right onto the canvas. Do you see how I'm going every which way too? I'm not really going in one direction. I usually paint in the direction the air flows. But we're going to have these big, beautiful blossoms back there, so my sky is not really my focal point. So I'm just going to layer the paint every which way. I hope there's a lot of you out there today watching. Maybe you were late to getting registered. When you do register and get the link, then I can chat with you at some point during the event. Whereas if you're just watching on YouTube, which is fine, you'll have to contact me later if you've got a question. I love seeing all your work after we're done. Okay, I'm going to go really light down here. That means I need a little more white on my palette. When you use paints, it doesn't really matter what brand at this point if you're just starting out. But if you get really serious about this, you want to go to an artist grade or professional paint. Because there's just better tint. Tint means the color. And less of all the other additives in there. Yay! So I had a little blue left on my brush and I'm just using the pure white and I'm putting it along that horizon line. Even though the tree is going to cross that line, I need to make sure this is all filled in. It's going to be a grassy knoll anyway, grassy path. So I can take my sky below my horizon line just to make sure I covered my dot. I don't want to see that dot right now. Okay. Now I've got some good coverage here. I think I might put a little bit more right here just to make sure I've got the whole sky covered. Okay, at this point I could put some clouds in, right? If it's not too wet. If your painting is still really, really wet, so you put a lot of blue on there, you might want to wait a little bit. Because then you'll have blue clouds, which right now we've got a lot of blue clouds outside here in Arizona. I don't know where you're coming from, but it's probably already sunset where you are. It's early here. Okay, so I can still use this same brush, or you could switch if you prefer to use the round brush for the round white clouds. I'm kind of swirling them around. See how I'm doing that? And I'm dabbing at it. And what I could do is also take my little ugly, paid a lot for that napkin, well you do these days with what's going on, and I'm just going to kind of dab at it a little bit. Give it a little texture like Van Gogh. I switched it up using my round brush now, and I can get some of those fluffy clouds in there. Wow. Now it doesn't look like much right now, but it will when the pink and the green are on there. I mean, it's hard to see now because I don't have a lot of contrast on there. Yay! And maybe we'll just have a little bit of white over here on this side. So I always try to start with the background first and move my way forward. So we're also, this would be considered background as well. We're going to put green along here, and then we'll work on the path, and then we'll work on those trees that are in the front of us. Okay. How are we going to make green? Some of you have green already. Some of you went and bought a big bottle of green. Well, I mean, green comes in so many different shades, and you make it by how much yellow or how much blue or how much white that you put into the whole mix. So let's experiment with that. I love that these paintings can be done with just a few colors, and you don't need the whole set. I think that's important in this time when we're really trying to conserve and not having to run around and get everything, although it's nice some things are just delivered to your door. I'm kind of one of those that has to go and feel it, and I can never get a canvas in the mail because I just don't trust that it's going to come and not be all bent up when I'm ready to paint. Okay, so let's get some yellow and let's get some blue. So I'm going to take a little bit of blue out of I have a palette knife here, for mixing, but you can just mix with your brush. And I'm going to pick up a little yellow, and I'm going to mix those two together. And you're going to see I'm going to get kind of a grass green. Very pretty. All right. Now, I just want to show you while I've got your attention on mixing. If I add more blue to my green, what am I going to get? I'm going to get more of a forest green, teal, dark forest green. If you add more yellow to your green, then you get a nice yellowy green. See? And then what happens when we add white? This might be repeat for some people, but I just want to go over these things again for those who this might be your first time painting. And see, you get a nice really light green. So all of these colors, you didn't buy it in the store, you just made them, and you're going to be able to put them into your grass. We're just going to start with one color for the grass right now, and then we'll add all these other colors later. So let's use the hog's hair brush, the one that feels really heavy and bristly. Heavy. I don't know that it's heavy, but it's definitely rough around the edges. Okay, so I'm going to now paint my grassy knoll right up to my road. You can hear it scratching the canvas. I love that sound. It means I'm at work and I've got something going on. There's nothing like a blank canvas. I do not like a blank canvas. In fact, you should always cover every inch of your canvas, even if an area is white. So like right there, even if that was going to stay like a white big fluffy cloud, paint it white. You just want to have the same sheen throughout the painting, protecting the painting. You know, there's a drying agent in this acrylic paint. Even though there's gesso already on your primer, it just looks nice. Finish it up. Okay, I've got to make up more green because I didn't make enough. So I'm going to repeat again for those who might have just been tuning in. So I've got some blue and I've got some yellow, and I'm going to mix them together and give a really nice, beautiful green. Your horizon line does not have to be completely straight. I've got a few bumps and hills in there. Horizon lines can be curved, mountainy, you know, the waves. Horizon lines do not have to be straight. So there's no reason for us to get our rulers out. In fact, anything in nature is not straight. So there is no reason. In fact, our earth is round. So yeah, nothing straight. If it were a man-made, like a fence, we made it. We're going to measure it, test it twice. Yes, then that would be straight. Well, unless I made it, then it wouldn't be very straight. I did not do well in woodworking in architecture school. I think the guys had an upper hand on me with that. I was like, I have to use a circular saw? Oh no. Yeah, I have a few injuries on my hands. Luckily, I didn't take any fingers off, but yeah, I've had a few surgeries. Building a model or two. Okay. But now I've been full-time painting, and I feel very fortunate to be able to do this with you guys.
if anyone has any questions, you can use the chat box below. Just type in the question and I will read it out loud to Debra, or you can send it to me privately, and then I can discuss with Debra as well.
Yay! Yes, please ask questions, because I'm sure that you've got some questions with acrylic paint. Maybe something isn't working, mixing correctly. Maybe the brush is not what you anticipated. So please let me know. Speaking of brushes, you could have just used a chip brush up here in the sky, because they're really rough and they're pretty cheap at the hardware store. They come in like 1 inch and 2 inch. Those are great for doing backgrounds. So cleaning your brush. How about cleaning your brush? How do you preserve the brush? So I'll just dip it in the water, swirl it around, and then wait till I can see that it comes pretty clean and dry. Not dry, it's still wet, but it comes out clean. Got a little bit of green left on there, and then I'll know it's ready for the next color. Okay, well, we've got a road here. What are we gonna do? Let's practice making a little brown. So we're gonna take I'm gonna take a clean plate just for the sake of teaching you all today, and you do not have to do that. I'm gonna take a little bit of blue, a little bit of red. You're saying, yes, but Debra, that makes purple. Well, let's add the third primary, which is yellow, and let's mix it all together. Oh my gosh, I got a brown color. And when I did this on our first lesson in May, somebody chatted in and said, what do you do when you have only brown paint? Yeah, well, I found out later it was my brother-in-law, so don't feel bad. He was just making me feel crazy. He's trying to rattle me. Okay, so I'm gonna take a little white and I'm gonna put it with my brown. Oh my gosh, that makes the perfect little path color now, right? Like I'm getting a nice little tan. If you wanna add a little more yellow to it to earth it up more, you know, you can do that. Or if you want it to be more like you're in an Italian hill town, you want a little more red in your dirt. You know, you decide. You decide how you want it to be. I like doing kind of this tannish beige color, because then I can put the shadows on top later that are going to be darker than the path. So I kind of want to keep it light right now. Do you notice I don't have any black? I have no black on my palette. Black is opaque. It will cover everything and make a big muddy mess. So you think brown is horrible. Try putting black in there. Ah, and you'll be like, no! Black isn't even on the color wheel. The absence of light. And white is a tint that makes things lighter. Okay, so, oh my gosh, hey, now I have this cute little path going somewhere. And we could stop right now and call it a day, but that's not going to be fun because you came to do cherry blossoms. And all over the world, well, we're probably, well, Arizona, obviously, we don't have any cherry blossom trees that are native here, but most of them aren't native to some of our towns. And it was the Japanese that brought some over in 1912 to Washington, D.C. They gave us 3,000 trees, and it was in honor of our friendship with Japan. And so those line the Washington Monument, the mall where all the monuments are. And then there's places like Philadelphia and Bethesda, Maryland. They have 1,200 trees. Philadelphia has over 2,000 together. And let's see, there is Sakura Park in Manhattan. And Sakura actually is a fruiting tree, a flowering tree in Japanese. That's what that means. And it's been, San Diego has them. So all our major cities have a whole cluster of them together. In Japan, when these start to bloom, which they started mid-April and they just went through the end of May, and some of the northern regions are just in full bloom, that's the start of their new school year and their fiscal year. So it's a time when they realize that, oh my gosh, yeah, spring's here, but it's also a new season for them. So they have big picnics under all the trees, and everybody comes out and enjoys time together. Because it's the start of their new school year, their new work year. And here, it's almost like it's the beginning of our summer, so it's very different. Okay, now I think I've talked enough to get this to dry a little bit. If you've noticed with acrylics, you're kind of working your way around the canvas. And this is exciting because now we get to like work on where these trees are going to go. So I'm going to, my charcoal is not showing up as well as me just drawing it. So I'm just going to paint it on with blue. You do not have to paint it on blue. You might have some of that brown left. Okay, I am going to decide where my trees are. In my picture over here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and a tiny little 5th tree. And then on the right side, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm kind of an odd number person, so 5 plus 6, 11. And my clump of 5 over here, I have the tallest tree, and I also have the smallest tree. So I also like variety. You do not have to put this many trees. If you just want to do 3 and 3, that's fine. Okay? So whatever you want to do and however you want to place them. The only thing I ask is that whatever's in the front is going to be the largest, and whatever's closest to the horizon line is going to be the smallest. So let's do it. Let's draw some trees. We're going to do the trunks only right now. So I'm going to have a big trunk right here in the front, and he's going to go past the horizon line. There's trunk number 1. Okay? Doesn't look like much, just a line right now, but I'm figuring out where I want everything to go. Now I'm going to do a medium-sized tree. Okay? So my next one, and I'm lining up with this point. Remember that point? It's hidden right now, but I know it's in there. So my trees lines have to line up with the point. So if you want your perspective to work. You see, you didn't even know you were going to